Well, hello, Angela. How are you?
Hey, Myrna, happy to be here. Let's get
So-
going.
I know it's so great to see you, and I'm thrilled that we're doing this interview today because you've already, contributed great courses to a life designed. And so today we get to sort of meet you and
Yes.
outside of your courses and learn more about what you do. I know what you do because I refer my clients to you all the time for the last, 15 years or so. So
Oh, yeah, we really want, I'm going to just say it. We've had so many conversations. This is just one more of million conversations that we've had since 2008. So I'm just calling it out.
Oh,
We've known
okay.
each other a long time.
Well, and for years you've been doing this kind of work. And so it's so funny because I'll talk with a client and they'll say, I don't know how to do a job search. It's been 10 years. Or I have a son who's graduated from school and now he's in a job hunt. I don't know what to tell him. And or some people just say, I'm kind of dissatisfied. I was passed over for a promotion. Do you know somebody that can help? And I say, in fact, I do. Her name is Angela. So
It's funny that you mentioned that generationally, because the majority of my clients that I work with are experienced professionals,
mhm,
been at it for a while, all the way up to the executive suite, level.
mhm.
And just this past week, I worked with someone who's the son of an executive that I worked with some time ago. This is his youngest son. I
Yeah.
already worked with his other son after college.
In the
And now
family.
this one graduated last year and has been in pursuing a law,
Mhm,
the degree. He has a law degree
mhm.
and now he's working as a law clerk and he's just thinking of the next thing he wants to do. And I'm helping him to update the resume we worked on a few years ago when he
Oh,
was
wow.
still looking for an internship. So it's
Okay.
just kind of fun to see people circle back. And when I was a recruiter, wow, that was cool. Could you were so helpful in my job search. Could you help my mom?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really fun too, to like have this cross-generational
Yeah.
influence.
Well,
So
and also other coaches, I work with executives, business owners, and sometimes around personal matters. And then career pops up, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a specialty. And I know a specialist. So let me get you referred. One of the things I love about you and the way you work is your tagline that you invite your clients to bring who they are, who they really are, to what they do. And I know that can feel like a luxury sometimes because sometimes you just need a resume or LinkedIn tune up, or you just need to know how to do a job search again. And you use your work to pay your bills, and it's fine and you're good at it, but it's not like this is my identity in the universe, this is my job. So, but for other people, they think, I'd like to do more meaningful work. So, you want
mm,
to share with us how people
yeah,
come to you and what
I
you
was.
do?
Oh yeah, I was a recruiter for almost 15 years. And so it's kind of embedded in my DNA, that I look at things through that lens. And I was the third party recruiter, kind of in between. So what some people call a headhunter.
Mhm.
Though I have to say I never did really like that term very much. It made me think of like shrinking heads and
I know,
Borneo.
I think of like Aboriginal tribes or something, headhunters,
The
yeah.
technical term, by the way, is sourcing candidates, not headhunting candidates, but
Okay, okay.
whatever. So anyway, back then, I just remember really having all these conversations with people about what they really wanted to do, and I kind of dig in with them. And I have to admit to having kind of a selfish motivation, because when you're a third party recruiter and you're doing contingent searches, meaning the
Mm,
company doesn't pay you unless they hire your candidate,
that's right.
it's in your best interest to dig in with that candidate, find out what they really want, see if they're going to be a good fit, then coach them along to make sure
Mhm,
that they do really well in the interview.
mhm,
Because when they get placed in the
mhm,
position, your client, the company, will pay you. So
mhm,
I was really motivated, on behalf of
mhm,
my company that I worked for,
mhm,
to make sure that those fits
mhm,
happen, the
mhm,
the the work fit happen. But then in doing that, I also sort of discover, I have a sense of curiosity about that. And I also had a personal experience having been in a situation where I was recruited by a firm because I was kind of dissatisfied with where I was. I was ready for a promotion. They
mhm.
wouldn't promote me. I was
Yeah,
so frustrated. Then
yeah.
along comes a headhunter
Mhm,
and I get placed into this position. And about 30 to 90 days into it, in the first few months, I realized, what did I do? I mean, this was like such a
Mm,
bad move.
mm,
But being persistent and stubborn as I am, I
mm.
decided I was going to stick it out. And 11 months later, after I called this my year in career hell, 11 months later, I was like, I've got to get out of here. And they actually fired me. They let me
Oh,
go.
okay.
They said, here's 2 weeks severance. You're great, but you're just not fit here. And I'm like, I know I'm not a fit here. But it gave me this, I was so devastated, I have to admit. It was such a humbling experience because prior to that, I didn't really realize how strong my bias was toward people who got fired. As a recruiter, you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
afford to have
You think
biases.
where there's smoke, maybe there's fire.
You're supposed to be open-minded, right? So
Mhm.
here I am in that experience, and I'm realizing good people don't fit some places,
Right.
and that happens. And
Mhm.
so it really informed, I mean, it made me a better recruiter. It
Mhm.
really did,
Of
because
course.
then I wanted to dig in a little bit more so people wouldn't have the experience I had. But also, I was also motivated by, bonus money, commissions. I needed to make that money, right?
Sure,
So I
sure.
can make a living and help support my family.
Yeah.
So I was really driven by, let's dig in and find out what really makes a person fit. And as I was doing this, I started realizing that a lot of people show up in their career path because they were just kind of at the whim of how the tides moved them or the current moved them, right? And like a former colleague of mine once said, and I say it in one of the courses I gave to you for the a life design, we're not amoeba. That's what he used to say. We're not amoeba. We're
I'm not a
humans.
small organism.
We're not like floating along in the current. We can, have more design around how we're gonna make our life go, and of course our careers too.
Mhm.
So I started really hanging out with career people, like career development people, career consultants, therapists who are into like helping their clients with careers. This whole organization I started networking with, or that supported those kind of people. And I realized I found my tribe. So I
Mhm.
found myself transitioning about 15 years into my career as a recruiter, and I was like feeling called to do more and
Mhm.
make more of an impact. But I'm still got that, I still, as you know, Myrna, I still have that very pragmatic, especially recruiter perspective, which is get results. We
Yeah.
can sit here and we can explore careers, and yeah, it's interesting,
Mhm.
but that does juice me. What juices me is getting results, like
Yes.
taking what it is that you know about yourself that you really like doing, and
Mhm.
how do you lean into that and make that a strength, or spin that in such a way that employers can see that value and want to hire you for that.
Yes.
Just talking to a client last night, and he was saying, so can your strengths ever be something you don't like doing, you don't want to do? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You
I'm
could
pretty
be.
good at vacuuming. Don't want to tell anybody.
Yes, exactly. And we talked about examples like that. And I said, I think the key thing to understand, because a lot of people are like, what do you mean? This sounds good. Bring who you really are to what you do. And that really part emphasizes it, like who you really are. It
Mhm.
makes you wonder, do I know who I
Mhm.
really am?
Yes. Well,
And
we
what I'm
float
bringing.
along sometimes. Life goes on, we get promoted, we get transferred
Yeah.
to a new department, and we're not really bringing a conscious
Yes.
effort. Maybe one is not required, and then something happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I better wake up and pay attention to what's going on here. Yeah.
It requires some self-examination, which is perfect for a life design, because that's what we're, promoting in all these other areas. And I've been really into personal development since I was a little kid. When I was like 10 years old, I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard
Yeah.
Bach, and I got it, and it was profound, and I was so excited. And I have to blame my mother for some of this, because she had some very esoteric things on her bookshelf that I would sometimes go and
Dig
check
in
out.
and out of.
I mean, I tried to read a autobiography of a yogi when I was a kid, and I totally went totally over my head. I could not finish reading it. It was so like not, I wasn't old enough to get it.
Mhm.
But that influence really helped, because I was always really interested in human behavior and what makes us tick. And so for me, I think it's really important to understand that we have a whole life, and
Mhm.
it's not just work, and it's not just our personal life, that there's a kind of a blend of these things. And I think one of the biggest misnomers, and I feel like an evangelist about this sometimes, because I feel like one of the misnomers that people say, and a lot of my colleagues kind of fall into this trap sometimes too. I mean, and not to their, it's not their fault, because that's kind of the message of society, which is go find your passion, go get the
Mhm.
work you love, and
Mhm.
you should have it all figured out, and it should make sense, and you should have this figured out by the time you start college, or whether you don't go, whether you go to college or not, you should have it all figured out when you're 18 years old. Right. But the biggest
Mhm.
misnomer is this idea that we have to have this fully, like, activated, turned on passion about work. And
Mhm.
I just think, know who you are, know what you're about, choose something that doesn't drive you crazy, that you
Right.
really do enjoy, that you can
Mhm.
make a good living to support yourself,
Right.
and then bring yourself to it.
Right.
Make your unique stamp on it,
Yes.
bring super, super value to what you're doing, and
Mhm.
be fully present with it. And you're actually living a conscious career,
Yes.
but it doesn't have to fulfill every, like, thing in your life, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you can go
Well,
and have a family and enjoy the difference you're making through your family, and the
yes, of
kids,
course.
raising
Or
kids.
that you're contributing to a community effort of some kind.
Yeah,
Big
like if
brothers
you're
and big
in a
sisters or what
community
have
service.
you, that there you find fulfillment outside of your work. But I know in the clients that we've referred back and forth to each other, sometimes people end up blooming where they're planted.
Yeah.
They end up saying, I've worked out kind of the hitch and the get along with my direct supervisor, or she quit and they promoted me. Now I can run this department the way all of us want it run. It's exciting. And then other people decide it's time for me to move on. And
Mhm.
it's not necessarily that something's wrong, but they're just complete
Yes.
about that part of their career, that part of the job, and they're done traveling or they want to travel more, but whatever it is, it's
Mhm.
time to make a change. And I think that's part of having a conscious career is you just sort of check in with yourself.
Yes.
Is this still what I want? Is it still rewarding? It has been rewarding. Is this continuing? Or I'm kind of just in neutral and sort of floating along and maybe I want to dig in and do something more. There was a client that I worked with who had somebody mentor him. And now that he's an executive where he works, he wants to add mentoring into what he does, even though it's not something he's going to be paid for, but sort of a pay it forward kind of give back because of the difference it made for him. And so sometimes being conscious in your career is not about a title or a promotion or more money.
Mhm.
And you really help people kind of identify, well, what is it that you find rewarding about doing this? You and I both know it's like when you're first in love, it's so bubbly and you're giddy, and then you do a long-term relationship and it settles down.
Yeah.
Love is still there, but maybe, it's not as giddy as it was in the early days while it was
Right.
just blooming for the first time. And work can be like that too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to be over the heels crazy in love, but if it's rewarding, then maybe it's the work you should still be doing.
And things change, I mean, look, personal example, I was in that job that was the year in career hell, right? It chewed me up, spit me out, and then I ended up landing on my feet because I had done some networking and I had met someone, and now I was making a conscious decision to go and work on a temporary basis for her.
Mhm,
We hit it off.
mhm,
After a couple of weeks of just doing things on a temporary basis with each other, she approached me and said, "Let's talk."
mhm,
She put me into this mindset, which I am ever grateful to her, because again, learning, right?
mhm,
Constantly learning.
mhm, mhm,
What do you really like doing? What do you want to do? And at the time I was still kind of somewhat naive, and I was, oh, I like everything. Well, that
mhm.
isn't true. But she pressed and she got me to really admit the thing that I love to do the most, where I got the most satisfaction in the work that I was doing. And she said, okay, well, let's lean into that. Let's make this role about you and what you enjoy doing. And that wasn't what I wanted to hire, but I want you, so let's do this. And so she designed a job basically around me.
Wow.
And I was happy working for her for the next 8 years. It was
Wow.
glorious.
Yeah.
But things changed, right? And the company got acquired. And so this is what the experiences of my clients are, right? They figure it out. They have a conscious awareness, because that's what conscious career is, or conscious anything. You become aware, right? It's mindfulness, bringing mindfulness to your career. I'm mindful now of what makes me tick, what would make me, energized and engaged day after day. And I'm not going to leave it to, and this is really important in choosing a conscious career path, I'm not going to leave it to the company, a manager, a mentor, the government, or anyone
Right.
else.
Your happiness is your own
Me.
inside job.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to let them decide for me. I'm really in charge of this for myself. Anyway, that's an aside. But in this experience that I had, and that many of my clients have, is that they've dialed it in and they've figured it out and they've achieved it or found it, or they've plugged into something that is more satisfying, much more satisfying. And then things change that are totally out of their control. The
Yeah.
company is acquired. The manager they love leaves
Yes.
or is promoted, and now they have to report to someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And some cultures of organizations, that is the culture, because
Right.
one of the big companies that we have in the area where you and I live, Myrna, is Dell Computers. And that's part of their culture, is lots of shifting and changing. And you set goals, but with the manager, and then that manager moves on and you're now with another manager, or you yourself move into another area. So it's very dynamic, a lot out there. So having a core sense of what makes you tick, who are you, makes it to where you can, I guess the word I'm looking for is, it's not security, because there's no such thing as security, in my opinion.
That's right.
But you have a more sense of a bearing, your North Star, so to speak, when you have it figured out, and then something happens to rock your world, or to pull the rug from under your feet, or to shift your direction a bit. But because you can reorient yourself and then get back on that track that you enjoy the most. So that, I think, is the core of what I is a philosophy of what drives me. But interestingly, I don't have a lot of conversations that go into this depth like you and I are having with many of the clients, because a lot of times, because I speak resume or CV language, that's kind of my, they say some people have, a foreign language as a second language. My extra language is resume language.
Getting hired.
Because I was a recruiter and I've reviewed, a million resumes in my career, and I'm not kidding. I will look at someone's resume and I can get a sense of, after they've talked to me, are they actually bringing who they really are to this resume? And are they actually explaining or emphasizing those key areas they should be emphasizing for the target, or for what they're targeting? Or is the messaging off? So many people come to me with just a simple report. Here's my career report. Here's what I've done.
Yeah, and it's kind of a timeline.
And it's a marketing
document. And then this, and then this.
Yeah, but it's a marketing document. It's messaging, and you control the narrative. And not everybody is experienced in that marketing side. And I'm not a marketing person, but I understand marketing to some degree, and especially when it comes to a resume. So that's kind of my favorite thing to do is, let's pull that out of you if you don't know it already. And then let's make sure it's emphasized in your messaging, and not just your written messaging, your verbal messaging, how you're saying it about yourself too.
Well, I know that the feedback that I get, so you should share what it's like on your end, is, well, I've been on 6 interviews and I never make the final cut. And I think, are you working with Angela yet? Because there's something out of whack that we need to get lined up better. Or I make applications and I never hear back from anybody because they haven't figured out how to do a modern job search, which, helps defeat the applicant tracking systems and so on. But I have heard you tell me about, this client had 3 interviews last week and he's gonna take the best offer. So you get like the dessert at the end of the meal. You get
Yeah.
the, "Oh, they were hired and now they're referring me their brother-in-law."
In the demystifying the job search process course on Alive Designed in the members course library, I do have this kind of 4-stage process. I was
Mhm,
working with a client, a COO, once, and she had been in the situation where she was laid off and
mhm,
hadn't looked for a job in a long time. And she was like, this is so ambiguous. I don't like, I put resumes out, I don't hear anything. I talk
mhm.
to a recruiter, they don't call me back anymore. I mean, what am I doing? So I
What's
realized,
the answer?
I know, right? And I realized that she had a degree in her early part of her career. She was an engineer and she had an engineering degree. So light bulb on moment for me, this
Mhm.
woman likes processes. All of us like to have some steps. It helps make things easier, but this woman especially likes that. So I said to her, I said, look, if I gave you a visual model and showed you in 4 stages, look, they have a hiring process and this is how it works,
Mhm,
since I know it, how
mhm.
about a job search process? And she was like, I love it. And so I gave her, and I said, and these are not only the stages, but each stage you have things you can do proactively that you control
To
that gives you,
influence a better outcome. Mhm.
right. And of course, everybody wants to end up in those fabulous interviews and with fabulous job offers. That's stage 4. That's the fourth stage 4 of 4, you know?
Mhm.
What I'm talking about, where a lot of people come to me, is they're in stage 2.
Mhm.
They're like, um, it's not working. Something must be wrong with my resume. And that's messaging. That's the second stage. And then sometimes I have to back them up a little bit and go, well, let's do a little assessing. How are you presenting yourself on your resume?
Mhm.
Right. But you can also sort of tell a lot of times how to diagnose what their situation is, just like you do with people in their businesses and so forth.
Mhm.
I can too in their job search. So if they say, I'm getting interviews, but I'm not getting the offer, it could be interviewing skills.
Mhm.
I'm not getting any interviews at all, might be the resume,
Mhm.
might be the resume, or it might be the strategies, the
Mhm.
methods that you're using to uncover opportunities. And
Mhm.
and also, is it back to that first assessing stage? Could it be that you're targeting the wrong things for yourself
Yes.
too? Do you have enough clarity? Are you speaking it to your network and the people who might be able to help you? Do they get it?
Yes.
And then how are you having those conversations?
Mhm.
A quick story. I love a story. I have a lot of stories, a lot of examples. But during the Great Recession, you and I knew each other, and we were
Yep.
doing this. I had just got my book had just come out, my
Mhm.
first book, and we were doing these seminars, the half-day seminars. You worked with us on that. That was so
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
And I remember during the very first seminar we did in that February of 2009.
Mhm.
And the part of the seminar, I was working with some career experts, and we all each had our different topics.
Mhm.
And my topic was around, getting started, letting go of the baggage that might be weighting you down, the mental thing, and then strategies, how to think about your strategies.
Mhm.
We had a resume writer expert who
Mhm.
was certified, who doesn't do it anymore, but at the time he was really good at what he did. And a lot of people came because they thought, well, I'm going to get what Michael's talking about. I want
Mhm.
those resume information.
Mhm.
I want that
Mhm.
resume information. And when they left, they were often saying, wow, I didn't realize that I needed to do this for the interview, or I didn't know those strategies would help me. But I
Mhm.
remember this one particular moment where we were taking a little break. And I just finished my little talk,
Mhm.
about how to get your network to help you
Mhm.
beyond just, I need some help. Keep me in mind. Keep
Mhm.
me in mind. I'm still looking. I'm
Mhm.
still looking. Keep me in mind. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like they hear the same thing, right?
Mhm.
And so, who
Mhm.
else can you do? And so, I gave some ideas.
Mhm.
And she came up to me. This lady came up to me in the break while everybody was getting ready for the next session. And she said, that was so helpful. I said, what happened? Tell me what was about helpful. She said, well, I have a friend, my best friend. We go to church together. And after church the other day, we were all sitting around having our coffee and donuts right after the service. And the group that we were gathered with, someone asked me, how's your job search going?
Mhm.
And I started to talk about my job search, and my best friend gets up and says, I gotta go, I gotta leave. And my feelings were hurt.
Mhm.
And now I get it. You're telling me there's a different, like, because this is what I had said to everybody. People who love you want to help you, but if they don't know how to help you, it
Mhm.
becomes uncomfortable.
Yes,
So sometimes they want to avoid the conversation, but they
yes.
don't know how to help.
They don't know what to do.
Yes. So if you could go to your network and tell them how they can help you,
Mhm.
and that's what I was talking about. And she was like, whoa, that was so insightful to me, right? So
Mhm.
it's just things like this that the experiences of working with so many people in career transition that I can impart to people that they just don't even think about, you know?
Well, you have so much industry knowledge, not just from your history, but also because you're in it every day.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like when you go to the vet and they know all the updated stuff about fleas and ticks, and you're like, I come twice a year to avoid fleas, and I don't know what's up about this, but they do because they're in it every day or
This is so
whatever.
true.
There
Like
was
next
a
week, I'll be giving a presentation to a nonprofit organization that supports job seekers. And the topic is 7 things that only a professional job seeker would know.
Yes,
And
because
hopefully you're not a
there really
professional
are
job
trade
seeker.
trade secrets. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
I was talking with someone the other day, and he was frustrated because, he hasn't looked for a job in a long time, and he's trying to put the word out. And he mentioned to me, and then I mentioned it to you, and you said, "Oh, well, this is the reason why." He said, I used to get called by recruiters, 2 times a month, 3 times a month. And the last 3 or 4 months, nobody's reaching out to me. And you said, because they got laid off. You understand in the industry that if there's less hiring, industry companies need less people to do the hiring. So
Yeah.
the people that do the hiring at the company get laid off. And
Mhm.
so I had to tell them it's not because, they don't like you anymore. It's because they don't work there anymore.
Right. And
Oh,
sometimes,
okay. Well, but see, that industry knowledge,
yes.
where
Well,
again, for
and
me, it'd
it's
be like, I
perspective.
have no idea why that is.
It's perspective. We only, when we're in a search, when we're in a job search, or even if we're just looking for clients for a business that we're trying to build, or we're a consultant and we're looking for clients, we only have our point of view,
Yeah.
and we have blinders, right?
Mhm,
You know, so we don't know what's going on the other side.
mhm,
We can make assumptions,
mhm,
and the assumptions usually are, in the case of job seekers,
mhm,
it must be me.
mhm, mhm,
They must not be interested in me, or
mhm,
whatever. And the
mhm.
reason is often something's going on crazy on the other end.
Right.
Like, yeah, they were excited about you in the beginning, and now you're all disillusioned because they won't, the recruiter won't get back in touch with you.
Mhm,
And that's possibly because the
mhm,
hiring manager said, let's get going. And the recruiter jumped all over it to do their job. And then something happened with the hiring manager that took their attention away to deal with some sort of internal crisis or
mhm.
whatever, or personal crisis.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the hiring got put on the back burner, and this other thing is more important.
Yes.
And now the recruiter doesn't really have anything to tell you. And
Right.
so they're just avoiding you because they have other things they've got going on
Right. They have a full
on their
calendar.
priority list. And they're
Mhm.
not trying to be rude. It's
Right.
just they don't have anything to tell
They
you,
have no
maybe.
news to tell
Yeah.
you.
And they can't spend every day talking to every candidate, telling them and updating them, because that would be ridiculous how many people they have to manage. And so
Right.
sometimes that perspective, especially for people who've never hired before, even
Mhm.
though some of my clients have done that, and they go, oh, yeah, light bulb
Right.
moment. I get that. Yeah.
Mhm.
It just, the perspective sometimes helps. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I imbue in the conversations I have with people, especially in my free initial consultation with them, that give them an idea of, oh, I'm doing this well, or oh, this is what else I could do, you know,
Mhm.
validation or fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
But most of the time it's, what can we do pragmatically, practically, action items that you can do to move it forward. Because again, I have fun speaking on these esoteric levels at the 30,000-foot view with people. It's
Mhm.
fun,
Mhm.
but I don't feel like the client is being served, the candidate is being served, the job seeker, whatever, if I am not giving them action items. You know how it is. You are the same way. What's
You
your
have to produce
homework?
the result. You have to produce the result. Well, you wrote a book called Get a Job Now, one of the books you wrote, and you have a lot of free information and resources on your website.
Yeah.
And so share your website name,
It's insyncresources.com.
INSYNC.
Yeah, not like the boy band group.
And
I'm
that's
still a
why.
fan of Justin Timberlake, and that's not why I named the company,
There's
but
no secret crush on Justin Timberlake.
no, no.
Well, and then they can find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on my website and I'm on A Life Designed.
Yeah, so when they come into our community, they can see both free and paid resources from you. And I know that from the clients we've shared and the clients I've referred, that you really get a kick out of, oh no, he got a job. Oh yeah, no, her too. Okay, yeah, good. They got a job. It's kind of like, well, of course they did. So it's
Right.
wonderful to see the results you produce with your clients.
Yes, it's been fun to share them with you and to hear your success stories too, Myrna. What a
Yeah,
great team we make.
there we go. Yeah, it's funny. We have actually tag team some
Yep.
clients.
Mhm.
And they're like, do you guys do this on purpose? And it's like, well, when it makes sense, it just kind of falls together that way. But yeah, so, but I really appreciate having you as a resource. And there's no more confidence destroying situation than trying to find a job and not having any luck. Because the bills come every month, whether you've worked out the job search or not.
Mhm.
And, you know, having people set their ship right, you know, their income is coming in and they're doing work that they're happy to be doing. Boy, then the sun comes out, you know,
Yes.
and things get better from there. So it's wonderful that there are avenues like you to follow so that things get back on track when they're looking for work. So
Yes. Well, thank you
good.
so much for giving me a voice here. It's fun to talk about this. As you can tell, I get really enthusiastic about
Yeah,
it.
no, no, it's fun. Okay, so we'll see you on your website, on LinkedIn, and at A Life Designed.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Angela.
Thanks.